The geodesic dome is what we're going to do. And under that geodesic dome, we're going to look at you actually do two things. One is you construct it accurately. First thing students had to do when they made their vehicles for sea perch is they actually had to cut all their PVC pipe perfect, all the plastic tubing. All right? Because when you're in the Navy and you're in the warfare or you're out in some pretty treacherous or hostile environments, you don't get to run to Lowe's or Home Depot. Unfortunately, you might be able to run up here and get another straw or two to build your geodesic dome. But the reality is that in the global assistance that we're asking to do today, and going out in space and going under the ocean, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Haiti today, all right? We need to be able to get there now, and we need to be able to respond really quick, and we need to have really good options. In many cases, the leaders that we depend on might not have made it through the disaster, or might not have got on the vehicle and made the trip with us. And so somebody needs to step up and be the leader and make that happen. All right? And so one is to construct a geodesic dome, and the other one is in your own passion, or the things that you have, that you desire, is to make that geodesic dome be used in an application that you want it to be. So you notice that in 6th grade, right, they do the residential houses, and they have to make a floor plan, right? And in this case, here's a garage with a little simple roof. Well, not every structure has a gable roof with, the top so that water can run off real quick. That's exactly why we have roofs like this. I come from Michigan, so the roofs are really steep. And when you get to Maryland and then you go further south, they're not as steep because we don't have to worry about as much snow and water having to get off as quickly. But we get out in space, or we go down underwater, or we go into other countries where there isn't a lot of rain, all right, then that's a waste of space, materials, and resources. Not even a really good idea. And I even go into schools where they're building space stations, and they're making them all have a gable roof, because that's all they know. But a geodesic dome is perfect, because in a geodesic dome, everything is made out of struts. Okay? In this case, our struts are going to be a straw. And you're going to have to make the base. It's going to tell you how big it is. You can follow along using pipe cleaners to join it together. But the base will put together a perfect decagon. Right? But if I was basically, right now, what's the biggest thing they need in Haiti? Besides medical attention, what do they need? Shelter, and they need food. And food, clothes, and shelter is our three most basic needs, isn't it? And we can get them food, and we can get them medical attention. We can't, once we give them medical attention, we don't know what to do with them. But we still have to provide a shelter for medical attention, but we've got to get them covered. All right? And as we get out into space, you can only stay in the vehicle for so long, and then you got to get out and you got to get under a shelter, right? You got to protect your things under a shelter. And with this, do I have any rain or snow on the moon or in Mars? No. So this isn't very effective. And what I also want to capture when I'm out in space is I want to capture as much sunlight as I possibly can. In a geodesic dome, when the sun starts to come over the top, it just starts coming in other sections of my geodesic dome, doesn't it? So to get out into space, I just have to have a whole lot of material like this, and that'll stack in a space shuttle really nice, won't it? You get it out to Haiti, it'll go on an airplane, it'll go on a helicopter, it'll go on a ship, it'll go on a train. I mean, however I can get the materials out there, I can get them out in a tube. And when I go underwater, I can sink this down underwater, cut it and put it together, and pump the water out. So now I have a really good dome with all the air I need underwater protecting me, and the strongest structure that I possibly can have, having all of those hostile, weight and pressures of the ocean outside my little geodesic dome. And out in space, I'd have to be able to hold all that pressure in so that I can take my spacesuit off and breathe with all the lack of oxygen in and out of my geodesic dome being the perfect setup. So a geodesic dome is really cool. But you get to decide, once you build the dome, using graph paper, building a floor plan to something that you think would be a really cool application. It'll be to scale. This weekend, what happened this weekend here that everybody was excited about? 4 teams, now we're down to 2. Okay, if that excites you, then maybe you want to create a stadium or a dome and put that right in the center and do seating all around. Maybe you're into music or theater, and you want to make that geodesic dome now for a performance arts center. I mean, there's so many things we can use a geodesic dome to do. One of the things you're going to do is, one is to build a geodesic dome. And the other is to be creative into making that geodesic dome serve a purpose. All right? So, with the handouts, where are they? Oh, they're over here. I'm going to pass these out in a moment. Everything you need is right here in front of you. You're going to be working as partners at your table. All right? Build a geodesic dome. Here are all the directions. Probably the most difficult thing you have to do is I think there's only 2 measurements. And one of those measurements is 4 inches. And the other measurement is 3 in some odd shape. But there's only 2 sizes, a 4 and a 3 in whatever odd size shape. You need to figure out, after you've cut how many pieces it tells you to cut, how to keep those organized, not let those get smashed, all right? And maybe what you want to do is take all the 4-inch pieces, or all the 3-inch and 7/8 or 3 3/4. Don't quote me on the 3 3/4, but mark them with a marker so you know exactly when you need to do that. It starts out easy, and it gets to be a little more challenging until you finally get a complete geodesic dome.